Dude, my first night of actually diving in and selling roofs, I had never sold a roof before. I signed 8 contracts. When I didn't think much of it at the time until the guys are like, dude, it's your first night. Nobody does that. And when you start to get people in there that think that they know better or that they're bigger than the process, uh, those aren't the right people. As far as making like those mistakes and bringing them on board, that's never, I've seen it all over the years. I've had people steal from us. I've had that I consider friends. I've had, I've had all kinds of stuff happen. And anybody that stays in business for any period of time will see all kinds of stuff happen. I'm a big believer of second chances because I had my own second chance in life, right? From being a guy that was homeless and living in a van to a guy that is where I am today. I know what it's like to be on both sides of the coin. We hire a lot of guys out of prison. Actually, dude, we had our best guy last year made like $1.5 million. In the last 17 years, he spent 13 of those in prison, and he's been out for 4. He's been able to create, that in a very short period of time. Like I spent a decade bleeding for the company. So did my partners. You don't realize that when it's gone, it's like, yo, that was kind of like, now what? I know that sounds like it's a luxury problem, right? You got fucking $15 million in the bank and you're saying, now what in life? Who doesn't want that problem?
Are you stuck in that $3 to $10 million year-over-year revenue? Roofs in a Box is your all-in-one growth partner for modern construction companies. They combine AI, virtual staffing, and CRM solutions to help streamline operations. Replace your high fixed overhead with cost-effective systems and support. They empower you to run a smarter, leaner business, freeing up capital where it matters most. Mention this ad to save 10% on your next Roofs in a Box purchase. This episode of Pain Points is brought to you by Ringba. If your business relies on phone calls, you need to be working with them. Their technology will help you get the most money out of your marketing campaigns. Their call exchange, Ringba X, can deliver inbounds on demand to help grow your customer base. Now, I want to be transparent. Ringba and Adam did pay me to deliver that message, but I'm also a customer, and I've watched them help dozens of companies become more successful over the years. So if you sell a product or service over the phone, I guarantee a moment with their team will be worth it. All right. Welcome to another episode of Pain Points, where real pain equals real growth. Today we have a good friend of mine, Bob Schober. He's a serial entrepreneur, a business leader, co-founder of ProWest, a company he recently helped build to a successful exit. And he's a founder of a 9-figure roofer. It's actually a relatively new social media brand that has over 2 million followers in less than 7 months. A company he recently helped build. Throughout his career, he's reinvented himself across multiple industries, proving that adaptability is one of his greatest competitive advantages in business. Beyond his entrepreneurial success, Bob's just known to pay it forward. He has this mindset of generously investing in others, sharing lessons, and just giving back to the community. Today, we're going to talk about building business, navigating reinvention, and just creating a legacy that extends beyond financial success. So, Bob, welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks
you
for
taking
having
the
me,
time.
Ed.
Yeah. So first thing first, let's talk about your newest venture, and then we'll backpedal into your history. Let's talk
Sure.
about the nine figure roofer.
Yep, 9-figure roofer on all platforms, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Um, 9-figure roofer, it's interesting. I'm a guy that believes that when you have some wreckage in your past, you got to clean it up, right? It's a process of making an amends. And years ago, when we still owned ProWest, I had this idea I thought to myself, um, what about the people I could never get to kind of clean up those portions from my past when I was like running around as a crazy youth, right? And so there was a time in my life where I was homeless. I was living in a Volkswagen. There was a time in my life when I asked people for spare change. There's a time in my life when I would sell food stamps for 50 cents on a dollar to get whatever I needed to get. Um, and that was in the early to mid 90s. I was probably the only guy living in a Volkswagen reading the book Think and Grow Rich. I've always been kind of grandiose, for real. It's been kind of a defect. You could call it a defect of character, but probably really good when it comes to manifestation, grandiosity. Um, and so I had this idea that I was going to make a big sign that said reverse spare change, honk if you need help. I had the idea years ago. And then this past December, uh, I was I made a big sign. I said reverse spare change, honk if you need help, happy holidays. I grabbed a couple guys that I work with. We went and stood on a corner in Mesa on Broadway and Power and held this big sign up, and people were honking that needed help. And we ran out, and over a day and a half period, I gave away $10,000. I made a few videos. I put it on social media, and they started getting 100,000 views, 250,000 views. And I was like, this is dope. People are inspired by it. People are like sending me messages. Hey, you inspired me to give back over the holidays. I love it. Thank you. That kind of stuff.
I like the ones where you give back to the single moms, and
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
quite a few with them on social where
Yeah, I do a lot
it's
of
giving
that.
back to people of like true need, right? And
Sure.
just kind of like hitting them up and having these conversations. Those are the ones that hit my heart the most, like the ones
A
that I've
a
seen.
hun- 100%. So we started something in December called Single Mom Tuesday, and you could nominate, not yourself, but you could nominate somebody that was a struggling single parent, and then we would go out and give them $500 or $1,000 in an effort to kind of make their day. We did that last week. I did 4 or 5 of those, and dude, just awesome stuff. Like somebody nominated a woman that lost her husband 2.5 years ago. She has a 7 and a 10-year-old, and she now has cancer for the second time as a single
Oh
mom.
wow.
So you talk about struggling. And I did a video with her. I pretended I was from Papa John's, showed up at her door. I told her it was reverse tip day and that we give her a tip for ordering the pizza. And I gave her $1,000. And dude, it was kind of an emotional moment. I made the video. I put it up on my, on my socials, and that video got a shit ton of views. And we were able to raise for her $35,000
Oh wow.
since I posted the video, which is amazing. Another one a week before her was a girl who was homeless that went by Cookie. I met her in Walmart, and I approached her. I ended up giving her, I started with $500. She ended up telling me she was homeless and living in a car with her kids. She had 2 little kids with her. It's 110 degrees. She's in her car. I gave her an extra $1,000. It was all that I had left in my pocket. I said, make a GoFundMe, and I'm going to post this video. I told her at the end I'm making a video. So I said, I'm going to post this video tomorrow. I'll tag you and make a GoFundMe, send me the link. So this homeless girl does that, sends it to me. I post the video. I post her GoFundMe. In the first 6 days, we raised $8,500. And she sent me a picture that Saturday. She got keys to her apartment. She was able to move in. I FaceTimed her on Monday, and she was getting beds for her kids. So I was like, and at this point, we've raised $15,000 for her, which has been awesome. It was the start that she needed. So, dude, for me, there's like nothing is more powerful than that, in my opinion. Being able to be of service like that just makes me feel like I'm doing exactly what God wants me to be doing with the gifts that I've been given. So that's
Yeah.
been nine-figure roofer for me is kind of taking on a life of its own. It's all I do. It's just me, and I have an assistant that helps me edit the videos, and she comes around with me most days. Uh, but we're just kind of building up this movement of kindness, kind of wrapped around the roofing industry on some level as well. So
Love it. I
yeah,
love that pay it forward philanthropy kind of thing, man. It's you've always had that from other companies and like your assisted living, your treatment centers. I mean, you just always had this philanthropy, give it forward kind of mindset. So I love that about you first and foremost. So sorry to start there, but it just
no, you're good, dude. That's honestly that's my favorite thing that's going on in my life right now.
yeah,
So,
I always love the I mean it's fine to make the money and to make the millions and to do whatever, but it's like, one of the things is I always remember where you come from, and I love that you do,
yeah,
and it's never too big for like what you've been through and to where you are. And I appreciate the fact that you do that. So
sure.
all right, so let's start it forward. Part of this is about reinvention and startup, right? So it's one thing to say, "Hey, I've exited this company. I've hit the dream. I finally all the work kind of paid forward." But it started with just a guy, a great sales guy, able to make some money quick in selling roofs, right? You have this idea, this belief system, a couple partners that you love and trusting and just started off with. But initially, you're the best sales guy. I mean, right? Probably you and Colin, and then and so you got to start this. You start this vision of ProWest. Can you kind of talk about the early days of starting, and then also maybe some of the struggles that you've had early on and what you had to navigate through?
Yeah, absolutely. I had went to Kansas to work a storm with my buddy Scott Riopel from Colorado he was working a hailstorm and I went to work for him. He later
On
became my
interstate?
yeah,
Yep.
and Interstate later became my partner. But I went to work out there, learned the trade, and came back here. And I was sitting with Matt Onifredi, one of my best friends. We were having coffee, and he's like, "Why don't you start your own roofing company?" And I said, "Dude, I could sell the roofs, but I don't know the back end, and I don't have the money to start it." And I just gotten back from working this storm, and I knew I was like, I'm on to something. Like it just clicked with me. I'd always been a door-to-door guy for the majority of my adult life. I knocked on doors for a living.
Yeah, I
So
remember those little cards you used to sell too,
yeah,
like
oil change cars. Yep.
yeah.
Dude, I often wonder, could I still do that? I feel like getting a contract and just going around just to see if I still have it.
Just for
Uh,
fun. And no fear of selling, at least, huh?
100%, 100%. So, I did the roofing and it was just a different price point on a product, right? It went from like a $70 item to an item that could be 10, 15, or $20,000, $30,000, could be more, uh, and selling the homeowner on that. So roofing paid a lot better than that. The skill set was absolutely the same. If you can sell door to door, I'm convinced that you're one of the best sales guys in the country if you can do it successfully, because it's not easy. And if you can do that, you can kind of sell anything. Dude, my first night of actually diving in and selling roofs, I had never sold a roof before. I signed 8 contracts. When I didn't think much of it at the time until the guys are like, dude, it's your first night. Nobody does that. But the sales pitch and the rebuttals and all that stuff from one genre to the next, from one trade to the next is always the same, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that it was, I
But you,
kind of
but you have a
just,
unique skill set. So one of the things that you are, and that's what I said at the beginning of it, man, you can sell anything, right? And you got this, you're one of the rare breeds, like, and I have a hard time even finding hunters, true hunters. Most people coast, they get to a certain level, they're done, they work half a day, they get to their yearly income, take 6 months off. You just
yep.
grind, and that's so let's talk about that also when you start talking about the growth. I mean, it's hard to replicate yourself. You're still the best sales guy probably for your organization, if not like top two. If you were going to go sell roofs today, I bet you would still be top producer, right? Because
Not to
that's
be
kind of
cocky, but I wouldn't put anybody in front of me. But that's, you know what I mean?
that's the point. How do you can't teach that because that kind of hunger and drive, a hunter mentality
There's
that
a
either you
hand,
have.
we have a couple handfuls of dudes in our organization just in the Arizona market that, believe it or not, that are true hunters, right? We have I think the most important thing in scaling a company, if you really can scale the company, then there has to be good culture. And it's the
Yep.
one thing that we've cultivated the entire time. The only time the company took a slide back is when we checked out and nobody was really checking the culture. And then the company took a step back and I jumped back in and we pushed it forward. When we
Yeah.
started the company, to kind of tie your first question with this question, it was me and Matt, just me and Matt. And Matt was like a back end guy, like taking care of business. And I didn't know anything about business. I was a diva sales guy. I thought at the time that if you're the sales guy, you're the most important piece of the puzzle. It didn't take me long to realize that like the back end and all that stuff is super important as well. So we brought, it was me and Matt, and then we brought Colin on about a year later, and he earned his ownership over a 5-year period. Colin was really good at like systems and processes. Um, so the other thing about scaling, dude, is like I heard somebody say last week, they said, how do you build a $1 billion company? And he said, it's easy. You build a lot of $10 million companies. And I agree with that. And we had the right mix, right? Matt had a great business mind, a great business sense. Matt was usually the bad cop. I was the good cop. And Colin was kind of a systems and processes guy. So between the three of us, we had kind of dotted all the I's and T's and crossed the T's and all that good stuff. Um, and I'd say we had a very complete team with really not many holes.
Yeah.
Um, we hired well. We hired people that were passionate, that believed in what we were doing and how we were doing it, and the opportunity and the vision that we created and had. Dude, I find it really important. that everybody is rowing in the exact same direction, right? You
So
can't be.
how did you communicate that? Because culture for me is everything as well. But to get to be from a small company, and I know you said you had the three legs of the triangle, minus the financial side of it, but the side of it though, how do you keep communication and rowing in the same direction and vision? How did you convey that early on to get buy-in? I mean, to make sure that if you ask 10 people the same question, you should get the same 10 answers, right? So how did you incorporate that early on?
It's, I think when you own the company, like you got to be the guy that sets the pace until you have a pace setter.
Yeah,
We have a lot of pace setters at ProWest right now, but someone has to lead the way. Someone is responsible for teaching everybody else in the organization that this is what's possible. I can't expect to have $10 million sales guys if I can't sell $1 million. Whatever you're doing, you need to be leading from the front. If I'm on an apartment complex with a sales guy or in an HOA meeting, it's at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night, it doesn't matter. Like you just got to show up and do it. I've always had the back of the guys, and we've tried to incorporate through the years the philosophy that if you came in and talked to the sales guys, that I always wanted the sales guys to feel like we work for them, they don't work for us. And so we came from a place of service, which I think is super important if you want to have a successful company. It can't all be
yeah,
about me. I see a lot of things out there on social media. You see like, owners like of companies like that have a bunch of sales guys posting the apartment complex that they're putting on. Like, how are you not giving that to a sales guy? Are you building your pocket or are you building a company? You know what I mean?
yeah,
So the real leaders are going to lead the correct way. In my opinion, it's leading from the front, not from the back.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that,
So how did you have this kind of mentorship? Because the thing about it is you got humble beginnings, right? And it's
yeah,
and I love self-made people because the kind of it's you earned it, right? It wasn't given to you. So coming in with this mindset, you had to figure out this philosophy some way, right? Did you have a mentor that kind of said, "Hey, like lead by example, pay it forward," kind of mindset, or did you just something like intrinsically was just part of who you were?
dude,
Because
I
that
think
kind
it's
of philosophy
intrinsically
is,
part of who I was, right? Like really going back as far as I can remember. I mean, I don't know how open you are with your sobriety. And if you're not, you can just delete this part.
I
So
usually I usually don't break my anonymity, but it's okay. We'll
no, no,
keep
no,
it
skip
going.
that part then. Let me think how I can rephrase that.
Just
Okay.
be real, my friend.
Yeah, yeah. So, dude, I think like I think it's really important to be a good steward of the gifts that I have in life. And I realize
Mhm.
that the way that you keep something is by giving it away. And you can rewind that back to everything. I mentioned earlier being homeless and I used to be on a lot of drugs and drink a lot. And I got sober. Um, and I had people take me by the hand and show me how to live a different life. And those guys kind of became my heroes. So the people that really taught me really wasn't so much about business. If anybody taught me about business, it was Matt Onifredi. There was nobody else teaching me about it. And he was my business partner and one of my best friends. And most of those lessons did not come with Matt sitting me down saying, we're going to do it like this. It came by us butting heads and on back end stuff, him turning out to be right. Right. And having some humility to know when you're wrong. Sometimes the humility is hard pressed and it takes a minute to kind of like realize, oh, I could have done this different or that different. I also had the type of partnership where you could sit down with the guys and they could be like, Bob, you're doing this and it's fucking this up. Don't do that. Or you're doing this. We don't like that. You know what I mean? We all wanted the same thing, which was to cross the finish line together. And we got that. And dude, the only thing better than becoming rich and successful by yourself is doing it with the people you care about the most. That part was dope.
I agree. My new holding company is called Rising Tides. It's kind of like this rising ships kind of thing
Yeah,
analogy,
I love it.
and really having that Servian attitude. Well, beautiful. So you kind of get the system, you have a culture, start getting momentum. Now, and at the time you're just in the valley, right? And I know you've done some storm back and forth
Yep.
with some strategics with different companies, like with Scotty or maybe some other companies. But let's talk about that first area of growth. So now you're trying to expand past the valley. So I
We
think
did.
California or something was next, or
No, no,
maybe two,
we,
three.
dude, we went to South Carolina early on. We went to Kansas early on. We went to New Mexico. We tried a little bit of Colorado. We worked some good storms, but it didn't help us as a company. And quite honestly, in hindsight, I would have done it differently. I think it hurt us. You want to
Yeah.
have your nucleus and your core in place before you try and spread out and go service other areas. And we did
You're almost chasing the money, right? Versus the operation. So
100%. And we realized that. So we had a manager in another state, and it didn't work out with that guy. And it was a headache to clean everything up, but we did that. We spent, a bunch of months in that state, got it all cleaned up, finished out with all the customers. And it turned out well, but it taught us that, like, let's become the biggest and the absolute best in Arizona. Let's own Arizona and then think about going forward. We closed down every office, all the other states. We brought everything back home. Um, we rebranded ourselves from Green Rhino to ProWest in 20, we bought ProWest because they had an extra 10 years in business. And we relaunched ProWest. It's a little bit of a different pay plan. And we just hit the ground running.
yeah. I love that. And so you brought up some pain points, and I've had the same ones, right? It's like I've overextended. I remember because I grew in Georgia when Helen hit, and it also we didn't know what we didn't know. I never dealt with natural disasters, and the DSO or the cash flow on collection on like complete renovations is a lot different than just re-roofs. So, you got a 60, 70 day receivable versus a year and a half out type
Yeah,
of stuff. And so I didn't know what
exactly.
I didn't know, and I felt like I overextended, and now we don't have a footprint, and we have like warranty issues, we have different things coming out. We gotta, so I can see what the overextension. Can you kind of talk about the pain points you had by overextending too soon before you had the core nucleus or the or your home base kind of ironed out? And
Dude,
can you
the
kind of
biggest
talk
pain
about?
point, like we had a big storm hit in South Carolina, and we sent a bunch of the guys out there to work the storm. At the time, we didn't really have the right manager in place. I think he was in over his, he was in over his head. Um, we were signing hundreds of deals. So getting the business was easy for us. And all of a sudden, a lot of stupid mistakes started happening. We probably put 3 or 4 roofs on where it was the wrong color shingle. Dude, this is like roofing 101.
Yeah, yeah.
It's stupid. We had,
Now, was that a part of just not having the right crews, being new to the area? Was it just not having the right project managers, the sales
no,
reps not being
dude, it was
enough?
being too spread out, right? The
Yeah.
problem's always at the top. I could blame it on a project manager or blame it on a GM, but we were too spread out.
Okay.
We had, storm there, storms here. We were kind of just busy all over. And it would have been way easier and way more manageable if it was just in our backyard. In order to grow successfully, you need good people. And we have good people now. We had okay people, like good people, but not great people. Let me rephrase that. I think to scale, you need great people
Yeah.
and great people that can follow a system that's already been proven. Um, we weren't there. And I think those were the biggest pain points.
We're talking about like just having like okay people versus great people.
Yeah.
And I follow EOS a lot for all my companies. All 18 of them run by EOS, and that way as people navigate through each of my entities, it's kind of the same process flow, right person, right seat, whatnot. And a lot of times I always say businesses fail for two reasons: people or process. And a lot of times I put the wrong people, and sometimes I either pay them too much or they're kind of getting this salary, so I'm trying to keep them there, even though they're really one, or if not even two levels down from that position. And because I'm loyal and I want to give people chances and all this other stuff, and most business owners, I think, keep them there past the expiration date. So when you start talking about having the right people in the right seat, once you have it there, it's game on, right? But if you have mediocrity, it's a stalemate, man. It's a disaster for the company, like
For
because
sure.
they are the bottleneck. And so let's talk about some of that, man. Like I'm sure you've hired people you loved and cared about, and how do you navigate those tough conversations with? I always say, the analogy I said is that when I'm doing one roof a week or two roofs a week on an install, and Aunt Susie's my bookkeeper. That's great. But when I'm doing 10, 20, 50 builds a week, Aunt Susie's maybe a receptionist at best, right? But everyone loves Aunt Susie. So how do you talk to these people you care and love about and make the right decisions for the business? Knowing that these are things, because I know how you are, you care big.
Sure.
So how do you navigate that and just talk about some of the challenges you had bringing the right people on in spite of your heart getting in the way?
Dude, I mean, we definitely hired a lot of friends. It's worked out as far as the sales positions go because they were straight commission, right? You don't kill, you don't eat, right? So that part that was one thing. But
Yeah.
the other piece is kind of like back office and that kind of stuff. Yeah, we definitely made some hires that in hindsight uh I wouldn't have made, right? There's been hires that started off good that turned out bad. Um, dude, again, I think like if they know the mission and everybody is rowing the boat towards the goal of that mission, then I don't think you can fail. And when you start to get people in there that think that they know better or that they're bigger than the process, uh, those aren't the right people. As far
Right.
as making like those mistakes and bringing them on board, that's never, I've seen it all over the years. I've had people steal from us. I've had that I consider friends. I've had all kinds of stuff happen. And anybody that stays in business for any period of time will see all kinds of stuff happen. Um, but the business has to come first. It's not your personal checking account. It's your fucking baby. You take care of it. You make sure that the baby's fed. You make sure that the business is healthy before you start going and buying a bunch of nice stuff, right? Like I see a lot of people get their first taste of success. The first sports car is usually the Corvette, and then maybe it's the McLaren, and then it's the Ferrari. And that's all well and good, but are you there yet? You know what I mean? And I think that I see a lot of people kind of get over their skis uh, in this business. And then you hear a lot of horror stories that, they went out of town, they spent all the money, and, there's homeowners that don't even have their roof on yet. So I think it's true. It's important that you're careful.
Yeah. Yeah,
And in
yeah, yeah. No,
addition
and
to,
you brought the, but do you think a lot of that is because we had like a lot of like, it's like one of those things that you pays now and pays later, but a lot of these people aren't used to the money, right? The blue collar kind of people, they've seen it come in, they think it's forever. They had a good storm or a good season. They
yep,
think that this is kind of their projectile up, and so I know for me, no one taught me how to have my money work for me. Nobody taught me how to invest correctly. Nobody taught me how to live off
sure.
my interest and my investments first and then not have and don't need the money from my businesses to be successful, right? It's kind of like no one taught me that. This is just proximity and trial and tribulations and how much money have we wasted not knowing, right? So do you think of some
Yep.
of it because roofing is a blue collar kind of experience, and then all of a sudden you're trying to have these blue collar people make financial decisions that are gonna, not really business owners yet?
I think that happens a lot. I'm a big believer of second chances because I had my own second chance in life, right? From being a guy that was homeless and living in a van to a guy that is where I am today. I know what it's like to be on both sides of the coin. We hire a lot of guys out of prison. Actually, dude, we had our best guy last year made like $1.5 million. In the last 17 years, he spent 13 of those in prison, and he's been out for 4. He's been able to create, that in a very short period of time. It's very easy to get caught up on shiny objects and toys and fifth wheels and sand fucking rails and, quads and all the fun stuff. And it happens all the time. And dude, it happened with me, but you learn your lesson quick and you either pivot or you just keep going down the same road. I think that what I look for is people that have the grind and the hustle. Like there's a lot of sales guys around. There's not a lot of builders around. I want builders. In our organization, you have the ability to build underneath you and create like nice residual. And those are the guys that I like having on board. It's perfect for culture. And you get a bunch of builders working together and you accomplish your goals fast.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the expansion then, because I know you guys let's talk about when you first grew into California. So that you're taking your first real step past just taking over Arizona and being a juggernaut in your backyard.
Yeah.
Just What are some of the vision and going into a new market, especially a new market like Cali, where it's not the same, right? It's not
No, I
copy
learned a
paste
lot
repeat.
from California. I would never go back there and roof again. And I'll tell you why. We're the kind of company like, dude, in Phoenix in January, we're putting on 90 roofs a week. 90,
Yeah,
90. In California, the way how difficult it is to put a roof on there, I don't even know if we could do nine with the same bandwidth. I'm being
yeah.
serious.
Oh, because of the permitting, everything's
Dude,
different.
every municipality has a different kind of permit system. Some of the permits are like, hey, we want to do a deck inspection. So you tear the roof off to the bare wood, you leave it open, you call it in. It could be 2 or 3 days till they get there. We had a couple houses get rained in, and I was like, dude, we're not doing
Yeah.
this. We're not doing
Okay.
it.
So you
I
pulled
can't
out.
just, yeah. So
Yeah.
I would not go back to that state specifically. Um, I love licensing and then stricter restrictions when it comes to roofing companies. I think there should be that because it kind of keeps like the riffraff out, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I do like that, but that, those rules were too much. I feel like it didn't help anybody.
Do you feel like and so what we do when we before we launch a market, we do an R&D initiative now. We do performas, we do financial forecasting. We send out a skeleton crew to kind of measure success and see what's going on. But this is through failing a lot, right? Because I think you learn more through your failures and your successes half the time, right? The and so was it because you were just had a good opportunity and just you're just kind of a figure it out kind of guy? Or did you after that situation formulate different processes to go to market strategy? Or do you just kind of trust your gut and just go quick, scale quick and figure it out kind of guy?
I want to go quick and scale quick, right? Dude, I don't,
Go out and break some things.
yeah.
That's I heard a good friend of mine said that in Scottsdale actually. He goes, I like to
Ah,
break
I,
that.
I feel like that. I think, look, man, I feel like when I'm looking at a state, if the way that it needs to be done is not in line with the process that we have that makes us who we are, then I don't want to, dude, that would be paddling against the current. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're gonna have to send tear off crews. I mean, everybody uses, different crews, whatever your crew goes, they tear the roof off. It's usually, if they start at 5 a.m., the roof's off by 9, it's dried in by 10, they're shingling, right? And the house is usually done that day if it's less than 3,000 square feet or even more. I would say under 35, 4,000 square feet, it could be a day. Um, in California, you just can't do that. So the whole flow of everything is, it was just kind of ridiculous and it's not in line. So we learned that like we have a process and if where we're at is going to dictate how we run that process and change it, then it's probably not the right place to be.
Okay. So my next question, I love this question. What's the most expensive lesson you've ever had in business?
Oh my God. As a company. And dude, when I talk, I say me, like I just want to make sure credit is going where it's given. Like I had two great partners and I would never have got as far as I did on my own, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Collectively, um, probably the most costly mistake is a seven-figure mistake. So we did insurance work, we did an apartment complex. The scope of the job that we got back from the insurance company was 3.2 million, and you get a portion of that up front. The upfront cash in that particular scenario was $537,000. The owner of the apartment complex had also entered into an agreement with a law firm trying to get, he had three complexes altogether, and he was trying to get everything covered. The other two, the one we had was like a slam dunk. We know this is what it is. The other two we thought would be a little bit tougher. And that ended up getting rolled into one settlement check. And the way that our contract was written was it was for the RCV specified by the insurance company. And the check was specifically for the RCV that was included. But that job cost us 1.5 million to do. And we got 537 up front. So we're legitimately negative $967,000 on that one job. And we're in court. I doubt we'll ever get it.
Yeah. That's
So,
a pretty mine was a DOT one, for roofing at least. I've had some other ones where I've lost like 400,000 in like a couple days kind of thing. But this one was big because the way we bid it, and by the time the job happened, and because I personally guaranteed it myself versus using a bond company, it was we were upside down by the time the deal actually started because of seasonality in the Midwest. We were upside down like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, but because we're contractually obligated, we're just losing, we just lost it. So it's either do the work and go upside down or don't do the work and get sued. So it's great choices to have, but it's just
Yeah.
like not knowing what you don't know when you what you don't know, and it's just that's the other thing, right? We thought we had the right commercial bidder in the area, and we did not. Wrong hire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's funny. And then okay, so that's I love the humility stories because it's just like everyone always acts like you're just kind of on the skyrocket, right? Like life's
Dude,
always great.
it's a big, listen, man, you go through, in our case, 12 years of working day in and day out together, being on the phone for an hour a day with Matt or whatever it was, like you go through a lot, right? There's all kinds of lessons. I tried to quit like 3 or 4 times. I was like, I fucking quit, buy my shares, give me 150 grand. You know what I mean? I was like, and Matt was like, we're not doing that, dude. This is worth way more than that. Um, so there was like those moments when that kind of stuff happened. Dude, we almost did a deal with you, right?
Yep.
And that would have gave you 25% of the company. That would have ended up being worth that 1.2 million investment we were asking for would have been worth 12 million to you 3 years later. We almost went down that route. You know what I mean? So it's like this stuff happens along the way that you're not really thinking about. When we were talking, I wasn't thinking about, hey, we're going to sell to private equity one day. I mean, that was always the goal, but you were just thinking like, hey, this will help get us over this next hump. We can plug into Colorado, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah,
happens.
I didn't realize that even for that, we didn't realize permitting took a year. And that's
Right.
what happened. A year later, like it was a different event. By the time we got licensed and got ready to go, it was a year
Yeah,
later, literally. And it's
sure.
like life's changed, you know? Yeah, it's funny.
100%. So, dude,
Um,
there's 100 ways to skin the cat, but it's funny all these things that happen along the way that when they happen, you don't think much of them. But in hindsight, it could have changed the whole trajectory of your company, some of those things. Like
yeah.
quitting, right? Like when I said they quit, they were like, cool, see you later. Dude,
It's kind of like don't leave before the miracle, right? You guys,
fuck yeah, that's
you've
a
created
hundred percent what it is. 100%. I'm so grateful for good guidance from good friends.
Yep. So the next question, and I've had this like even for me, I remember one of my big company. I remember when we were looking at exiting and like look having our chart of accounts in order and not knowing that they go after a rolling calendar year versus a physical calendar year for the evaluation and always sell during the uptick versus like a lapse in it, whatever. So a lot of lessons, and I didn't know what I didn't know. Can you kind of tell me about like let's talk about exiting because you said it was on the radar, but what did you finally decide that saying, hey, you know what, let's entertain this? And then second, like what do you wish you knew before if you were going to do it differently versus what happened? What do you wish you'd done differently early on to maybe set yourself up for something better when you did
Yeah, I
exit?
kind of believe that I'm one of the lucky ones. Um,
Mhm.
we had an attorney that said you guys should think about selling your company in 2019. We got together, we met a couple times. We decided we weren't ready. We approached us, right? We went from like 19 million to 32 million to 51 million in sales in 19, 20, and 21. 21 in the summer 21 we hit the market. That's the year we did 51 million. Um, and we had some offers come in like pretty early on, and we could have took those offers. And most people would be like, "You're crazy for not taking that offer," but we didn't. And we had a number in mind. I know Matt and I had the number 50 is like we need to at least get that. Um, Offer comes in 27, turn it down, 36, turn it down, 41, turn it down. Got a couple of guys that are interested in us. Gets a little heated. At this point, we were in Arizona and South Carolina. We were trying to hold back South Carolina. We threw South Carolina in the mix, and we got the number that we wanted. And we were able to chop that up 3 ways. We paid 3% to an investment bank. paid a couple $100,000 to an attorney, broke off some bonuses to some people after we sold, and then chopped the rest up. So I guess what I wish that I
Oh, I want to have a follow-up question on this because
oh, go ahead,
I have
go
a
ahead.
experience. Well, no, I want you to finish that thought, and I'll remember the question.
Um, dude, when you have an exit like that, I think people don't think like I spent a decade bleeding for the company. So did my partners. You don't realize that when it's gone, it's like, yo, that was kind of like, now what? I know that sounds like it's a luxury problem, right? You got fucking $15 million in the bank and you're saying, now what in life? Who doesn't want that problem? It's a thing where you kind of like, for me, I'll speak for myself because I know that Matt had a different experience than I did. I'm sure Colin had a slightly different experience. A lot of my identity was wrapped up into that, and I knew where I needed to be and what I needed to do on a daily basis. And when that was no longer there, it's like I had everything I wanted, but I didn't have direction or purpose.
Yeah,
For us, we took a walk when we got paid. We didn't have to work there. We had at the time, a good
that's
CF.
actually lucky. A lot of times people like have to go with the exit.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't really lucky because we kind of planned that. We knew in 2019, hey, we're going to sell this thing someday. And so we were trying to take steps necessary to put us where we needed to be. Probably like a year and a half before we sold, we put those two C-level people in position and they were able to hold up the flag and keep it up. Um, and so when that time came, we didn't get, sucked into the snowball of what was next. We're able to
Yeah,
just take a walk, take a breather.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and you brought up a key point as far as exit, and I'll ask my question next, is that like a lot of times if you have a business that runs itself, like I remember like our company where they were offering 80% upfront, 20% after a year of earnout, and don't go, and if you sell during the downturn, I think the offer was 50% and a 3 year part of a 3 year exit because you don't have your ducks in a row. Right. So it is something about have a company that's a self-cleaning oven that's created a culture that could run without you, that can, business owner versus business operator. So kudos to that.
yeah,
Um, my question to you, and this is, I think there's a lot of small business that try to do it themselves. You said you had a company that you paid 3%, which is actually standard 3% ish or more, but for a broker. Did you use a broker and would you
yeah.
recommend you
That
one
was
or
an
not?
investment banker that we gave the 3% to.
Right.
The IB is basically the broker. They brokered us. That's their
Yep.
job. So
Yep.
they packaged us up, put everything in a pretty package, put a bow
Pretty
on it,
bow.
and then
Yep.
went to all the private equities and started shopping us around.
Yep. And you suggest that because they're the ones they're working for you. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry. They just bring people to the table when they're actually
Bro,
ready
this
to
is
buy.
yeah, don't be ridiculous. Like I would never bring on, let's say somebody came to, you know what I mean? Like, dude, let's say I'm going to go sell $1 million roof and I bring on, and a brand new guy, a used car salesman comes on board to sell roofs for the first time. Do I want him to sell the roof or the guy who's closed millions of dollars in deals to sell the roof?
Yeah.
These guys sell shit to private equity all day long. That's all they do. They have
Yeah.
the relationships, they have everything. They know how to get you the maximum because they're getting paid off that. So
Yeah.
to think that I could have went out and found a buyer, maybe, and got more money, I don't believe that for a second, than we did by having we got 3% just by having a good investment banker.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And they're going to get you your weight in gold. I mean, beyond that. Next two questions, and then the shameless plugs afterwards, and we'll drop all your socials and the links below, like when we leave, so that way everyone knows how to find you. But if I'm a new entrepreneur, I'm getting started today. I don't have a dollar to my name. Maybe not down the scale you've gone, like living in my car and throwing parties in my van type of thing. But but like, what advice would you give me on how to get started and kind of how do what would you say? Hey, Ed, you have no experience. Ready, set, go. This is how I would do your next year to get you established in a market or in a business or whatnot.
I
What
would do
advice?
what I did, which was like Matt had some belief in me and he was one of my best friends. We had a real trust between the two of us. Um, he would, dude, in hindsight, he was kind of the brains, and I was like, I don't want to say, I mean, dude, the first couple weeks, I wanted to create cash flow. In the first probably 10 to 14 days, I sold 14 roofs. Of those 14, I think maybe one didn't go on, 13 did. And then we just took one person at a time. I hired one canvasser that went around with me, and I trained him to be a sales guy. And after watching me for a few days, on a day I couldn't work, he said, "Can I go try it?" I said, "Yeah." And he signed three on his first day. Right. And so we just did that. Scalability is taking something that's proven and good and replicating it, in my opinion. And so I was able to replicate myself with some really good sales guys over and over and over and over again. That's all it was. If you can replicate the guys who, if you own a business and you're in a trade and you're the one doing the work, you're never going to get past doing the work. Can't do it. You can only make, if I'm a framer, I can only frame so many houses. I'm humanly capable of framing X number of houses in a week or a year as one person. You have to have a team. And you have to have
Yeah.
a good team like I had that was well-rounded in the areas that I fucking sucked at. They were
Yeah.
super sharp where I'm no good. And I was really good where they weren't, right? That
Yep.
stuff is critical. So I can't stress enough that like you got to get at if you're the guy doing the work, you need to find other good guys that are doing the work and go create more work for them to do while you're growing. I mean, if you want to grow, that's how it's done.
Yep. At least from grassroots, right? Unless you have
Yep.
money to invest or systems or whatever, you
Yep.
have to. Yeah. And I appreciate like what you're saying. Like you were saying different things like doing the calls at 8 o'clock at night, answering the phone, doing the stuff you don't want to do. And like I said, without breaking your anonymity, I mean, you've downsized, you've sold houses, you bought houses, you've done whatever. You've done all the sacrifices you needed to do in order to make sure that thing kept going. I like how you said it's a baby, you know what I mean? Your baby has to
Yeah.
get fed. And you guys came with that mindset. So congratulations on that. Um, next thing is if you were going to give one or two of your favorite quotes as far as growth and success and like kind of the things that kind of help um, just your mindset or just great lesson or great words to live by, what would that be as far as like your number one lesson in
Dude,
life or
my,
number
my favorite quote is that if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. And
yeah,
what that tells me is to surround myself with giants, period. Dude, I don't want to be on a fucking B team. I don't want to be on the little league team. I'm serious. I don't want to be, I'm competitive in nature. I don't want to be fucking second place, right? I don't, dude, I want to be surrounded by fucking rock stars because that's what I know gets it done.
yeah.
I
Tony
want
Robbins calls this thing proximity, and if I look at the circles that I'm around, that's usually where I'm going to end up. You
yep.
know, if I'm the smartest guy in the room, then I'm in the wrong rooms. You know what I mean? I need to be
Dude, and if
surrounded by.
you look back at the guys that I've been closest to over the years, right? Matt, Colin, Dan Nichols, Tim Nichols, there's lots of dudes that you can put in there. I mean, Tim, God rest his soul, was a successful dude. Dude, all of those dudes that we came up together are all multimillionaires, every single one.
Yeah,
It's
they're all
crazy.
great people too.
All great people, all multimillionaires, all did it a little bit differently, but it's like, dude, the proximity thing I've never heard before, but that's great. That's true.
Yeah, love that.
You are
And
who
then,
you,
no, go ahead, finish up that.
no, I just said you are who you hang out with.
Yeah, I agree. And then as far as like the philanthropy and paying it forward and what's next, I mean, you've done a lot, you've accomplished a lot, and I'm kind of like you. I don't know if I ever retire. I don't care how many zeros I have in the bank. I just I love the hustle. I love the hunt. I love the recreation. I love the innovation. I love being part of something. And I kind of you not kind of you are that same person. So is it the podcast? Is it the social stuff? Is it what's next for you? What do you feel like is on the horizons for Mr. Schober?
Dude, I really am bent on building the largest movement of kindness and generosity ever seen. That's my goal. I want to
Love
spread
it.
that around the world.
Beautiful. And if people want to find you, obviously, you just send me all your social links. But
Yeah,
how do people find you? How do they contact you?
it's the number nine figure roofer.
Okay,
Nine
and
figure
that's your
roofer,
social.
all one word, no spaces, just the number nine figure roofer. It's on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all of it.
Beautiful. And we'll have the social links on the bottom of this pod as well.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, thank you for taking the time, man. It means a lot. I know you're a busy guy, and I just appreciate the lessons, the opportunity, and yeah, man, it's been fun watching you from afar lately. But I'm your biggest advocate, so congratulations on your success, brother.
Dude, I appreciate it. Thanks, Ed.